Okay, with respect for those of you that actually logged in on time, I think we should kick off the webinar for today, where we will focus on lead nurturing and have a fantastic speaker for you once again. Isabel from SiriusDecisions is joining us today to give their insights on to some of the best practices of great lead nurturing. A little bit of housekeeping for this call. You have your webinar app, which is hopefully available for you. You are all on mute right now. However, the webinar will be recorded, which means that if you for some strange reason needs to log off early, you can still get the full webinar. And for those that didn't log in, or if you find this very interesting, you are then free to send it out to your colleagues afterwards. Also, you will receive a recorded version. Also, you have the option of asking questions naturally in the chat functionality or on the questions pane, and I'll be monitoring that as we go along. And we'll take questions, as they show up and try to fit them in, or else we'll also sum up in the end on the different questions that might arise. Okay. So with that said, let's kick off the webinar. Just want to make sure that I have my screen on. I do. This is good. So we're all set to go. So first of all, let me just introduce myself. My name is Lasse. I am partner and owner and founder of the company called Increase. I've spent the last 8-10 years of working with mid-size and enterprise customers in the Nordics, aligning sales and marketing, optimizing marketing strategies, and these sort of great things. So I have probably the best job in the world if you were to ask me directly, because I get the chance and option to sit alongside a lot of customers of ours that are in the process of really trying to adapt new technologies, new communication ways, and these sort of different things. Feel free to reach out on my LinkedIn profile or directly through email if any questions arise after this webinar. Just want to give a very short introduction to Increase. I have 2 slides in total. This is one, and then the next one is just a standard slide of references. We need to have that naturally, right? So a little bit about the Increase. We are about 32 plus resources and employees, and we do nothing else than specialize in the Oracle Marketing Cloud. Which is really one of the most advanced communication platforms to really support the full set of the customer journey along what we're going to speak about today, which is lead nurturing. We cover most of the Nordics, so we have people in all different countries and have customers all over the Nordics also. We have been chosen by Oracle as a strategic partner in the Nordics, and spend a lot of time on certifying ourselves. And what we really recognize is that to really be effective on our communications today and really trigger, also in the sense of what we're talking today, effective lead nurturing, it really takes data. So for us, data is really the starting point in a lot of the communications. However, we were actually, once when we started up the company, we were a standard digital agency with creative resources and all of that. So we have a background of marketing and speak the language of marketeers, and are now very focused and been that for the last 5 years on the data elements and integrating sales and marketing. As I mentioned before, the telltale slide that we must have a lot of different companies that we work with, just to show you guys that it's just not myself. We also have a lot of colleagues and customers that we do business with. Enough about us. If you really want to learn more about us, or if you want to get inspiration in general around marketing automation, lead nurturing, scoring, general stuff, we have our blog, which is also posted in the different Nordic languages. Feel free to go to our website, increasegroup.com, or into the local sites, SE and NO and Increase DK, and go to our blog and watch and follow what we are writing. Hopefully you would find that interesting. So with that said, let's kick off what we're really here for, which is lead nurturing and best practices around that. So I just want to spend a few minutes on really trying to set the scene and why this is actually relevant and something that can really affect both the cost of sales and also the effectiveness of what we're really communicating to our customers. So if you think about the general cost of sales and how that is set up, now there are two angles to cost of sales. Naturally, there's hopefully going to be a profit once we close a deal with the customer, but until we close that deal, we're actually adding up cost every single day and with every single interaction we have with our customers. So a standard sales process would be something like, marketing, executing a campaign, or spending resources on executing campaigns in general. Now that might trigger leads that sales need to follow up on. Now, our great sales resources need to spend time on following up the leads, and it takes 1, 2, 3 calls to reach the customer, and hopefully you get to set up a meeting, right? There's going to be a number of meetings depending on the sales process you have. If it's a solution-oriented sales process, then you might have many meetings until the customer actually is ready to speak to you. So a number of meetings, you might bring in pre-sales, you might end up in proof of concepts and all of these different elements. So again, cost being added up. So customer ends up in a situation where he says, yeah, well, this looks interesting, let's negotiate the contracts. Again, more resources added up. And then hopefully we end up with a purchase, and if we do, well, we take all of our consolidated cost and add it into a profit. Now naturally, if we do not end up with this purchase, we have spent a lot of money, and you should actually think about this as going out with your credit card and starting to spend money, right? Because it's cost of sales adding up from the start of this process until the end of this process. So if we don't realize the purchase, if we don't close the deal, we will have added up a lot of cost. Now, the option here for us is naturally to carve out when is it that sales should be implemented, should be engaging in this, or when should we actually kick out customers? Maybe not kick out, but you know what I mean. Devise them from going into to sales. So if we think about what the standard sales process and the divide between sales and marketing, how that often is set up, marketing covers typically the very high end of the funnel, running the websites, doing the marketing collateral, the standard campaigning, generating leads to sales, which then does more of the prospecting, the cold calls, the nurtures, the follow-up, the first meetings like we discussed before, and then actually enters the sales process. But if you were to speak to sales guys and ask them how much do you find how much motivation do you have for the prospecting part, cold calling and following up on leads and all of those different elements, and statistics tells us that a very high percentage of a sales resources time is spent on prospecting. And this is actually where all of the nurturing comes in, which Isabel will speak to you about in just a second. So what we can do with technology today and the automated functionalities of automated nurturers and setting up the nurtures correctly is really to switch this process around. So the prospecting element becomes an automated nurture, an automated lead nurture, and sales should only spend time on the really qualified leads that should go to them. So with that said, if you think about this from a cost of sales perspective, and if you think about the slide I showed you before, imagine the amount of cost that we can actually save and only sending sales to the customer that has been nurtured and has been qualified as ready really to speak to sales. So with that as a starting point, we see many of the projects that we're running today in B2B segments naturally, where the funding for the project actually comes out of the sales organization. So, sales director could look at this and say, you know what, if you can deliver qualified leads, I can carve out all of the resources I spent on prospecting and only be using my expensive sales resources, highly qualified sales resources on the customers that are actually in the market right now. Well, I could save a lot of resources. So why not give that money into marketing so they have funding for their automation project, the technology that is needed to drive automated nurtures and personalized campaigning and those sort of different elements. And this is really what we will be discussing today. How can we optimize the nurturing flows in this starting point? Now, it naturally takes technology, it takes processes, it takes communication. And once we've done with the theoretical part of this from Isabel, I will show you what technology can actually do to support you in this process also. So sorry about that. If any of you were on our webinar the last time, We have had 2 webinars now where SiriusDecisions has been a part of it and has really talked about the demand waterfall and how we can align sales and marketing and identify the different processes that customers go through. And today we'll really speak about how can we do best practice nurturing. And for that, once again, we have a fantastic speaker, Isabel. Great to have you back again. Loved your presentation the last time. We've gotten some really good feedback from a lot of the people that participated. So pressure on you to deliver the same high quality like you always do. So I think if you could unmute yourself, then you could probably say hello to everybody, and while you do that, I will change you to the presenter.
That's great. Thank you so much. Good morning, Lasse, and good morning to everyone else that is on the call today. It is a pleasure, as always, to be back speaking with you, and hopefully you.
Isabel, I lost your audio. I think the webinar will be much more interesting if you can hear what you're saying. Isabel, can you could you see if you have unmuted yourself? Bear with us for just a second, guys. I'm not sure what happened, but we should be able to hear our good friend. Not right now, at least. Isabel, are you able to say anything here? You know, that's one of the things usually you don't want to happen. You know, build up everything, and then right when the keynote speaker is to launch, then we have a little bit of an audio issue. So hang on a second, guys. We'll probably get this sorted out within in a minute or so. Just write to you here, Isabel. Just write this to. Really sorry about this, guys. Not sure what happened with the audio. Hopefully, everybody else can hear me. Well, my friends outside my office here actually told me they can hear me, but I think it's just Isabel that we can't hear. Well, I could do a little bit of singing maybe, if that would keep everybody busy until we reach out we get the Isabel online. Oh, I hear you now, Isabel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we have you now. Great.
Excellent.
Glad to have you back now.
I do apologize. I do apologize.
National anthem, but so take it away.
Well, actually, perhaps I should have stayed quiet. That would have been interesting to hear. But my apologies for the issues. I'm not really sure. Christian and I could hear you very clearly. So my apologies for the delay in getting started. But I think the first thing I said was just thank you very much and good morning, Lasse, and good morning to all of the other attendees on the phone. I am, as always, happy to be here talking to you about demand creation, and today specifically about lead nurturing, which is actually one of my favorite topics. So let's kick off with just sort of looking at, from a high level, as Lasse showed in his last slide, around the waterfall, just to ground everybody in terms of what do we mean when we talk about.
It's going to be one of those days, Isabel, I think. For some reason, we lost you again now. You're really putting pressure on me to start singing, and I really don't want to do that. I think I can monitor when people drop off, and we will see a decline in people being on this webinar when I start to sing. I promise you that.
Lasse, can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you again. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Okay, I have switched from my phone to my computer, so I apologize if the quality is not as strong, but hopefully this will be more consistent.
It's perfect. It's no problem.
Excellent. So as I was saying, let's start by just recapping the slide on the waterfall that Lasse showed us just a moment ago, because the waterfall is really fundamental in terms of the discussion that we will have with regards to nurture. And so as we look at the waterfall in the center of the screen, just as a quick reminder, there are 4 stages, if you like, in the waterfall. The first one is the top of the funnel, where people raising their hands, either because we've reached out to them through outbound mechanisms, or they've found us through search or other websites. That comes in, and we call that an inquiry. Second, as we bring that into the house and start trying to add more data to it, trying to qualify it, sometimes that happens with the use of automated systems. And if it does, then we would call that an automated qualified lead, an AQL. And then, often that gets handed off to a teleprospecting team, which adds yet some more information, and hopefully that results in a telequalified lead. The third stage is sales qualification, and that really is where teleprospecting hands over to sales, and hopefully, as with the diagram that Lasse had, sales is happy to receive this lead and is in agreement that it is a very strong lead. And then, as they qualify it and agree that it is time for it to enter an active sales cycle, we achieve what we call an SQL, or a sales qualified lead. And then we go on to a lot of the other components in terms of demos, negotiations, and hopefully that close won business in the 4th box at the bottom. And so really we can see the job families that are going on here as we go through this particular waterfall. The first one being seed at the top, seeding awareness and demand. Then the second one within marketing qualification, really creating that pipeline that we all need. Then bottom on the left, really once it hands over to sales, trying to help sales continue to accelerate that pipeline as it goes through, as well as on the bottom right, helping enable them to continue that conversation in a very positive way. Now the nurture box, the last one on the right-hand side, as you can see, it's a little unique. It has 3 lines. So what that means is there are multiple places within this demand waterfall that nurturing can occur. In the description that Lasse gave us at the start of this presentation, we were really talking about that first line, which is an automated type of nurture for an inquiry that comes in through the top of the funnel and is just not yet ready to be passed over to sales. It perhaps is not the right time, perhaps we're missing some key information to help us understand that this is the right prospect. It can be a number of things. And so really that's the first type of nurture. But there are 2 other types that we'll talk about as well that happen in the middle of the actual waterfall and then towards the end of the waterfall. So without further ado, let's get into what we call them. So first and foremost, the one that happens at the top we called pre-marketing qualified lead. And here, as I said, typically the inquiry is coming in, it's being scored by a marketing automation platform, and then perhaps it's not quite ready, and that score is not quite at the level that you've set it. So if the score was 100, perhaps it's coming in at 50. And so there's a number of things and programs that can be put into the marketing automation platform to help it continue to drive interaction and gather information about that prospect, hopefully so that the score can be raised and we can get to a point where the AQL score is met and it's ready to be handed over to teleprospecting. The next one happens in the middle of the funnel, and we call this recycled leads. And there are actually 2 subsections of recycled leads, the first one being active and the second one being passive. So for active recycling, what we're talking about here is a situation where teleprospecting has received a lead, they've qualified it, and they've sent it on to sales. Sales has accepted it, and then for one reason or another has sent it back disqualified. Typically, this happens because either there is insufficient budget, the timelines aren't quite right, we're not talking to the right person with the level of authority to purchase, or perhaps they did have that, but there has been some change in circumstance. And so that is the opportunity that sales has to say, this was a very good lead, but something was missing. And so I'm going to send that back to Tele and to marketing and ask them to continue to work on it so that I can focus my time and attention on these other leads that are actually hot. And in that way, as Lasse was saying, we can save a lot of time and energy within that sales team. The second type of recycled lead is passive, and this one is a little bit more contentious, if you like, because as you know, perhaps you've seen leads actually handed over to sales, sales has accepted them, and then they sit there. For whatever reason, it could be that sales was trying to connect with the actual lead and the lead has gone quiet or gone dark, or it could be that the salesperson's attention was pulled onto a bigger or a more important project, and as a result, for this early lead, they just don't have the time to engage with them as actively as you would like. And in that situation, if a lead sits there for a particular length of time, passive recycled looks to set a timer to say if that lead is older than a certain number of days, typically we suggest that be about half of the average sales cycle, then marketing should be raising a red flag and going to sales and saying it's time for sales to pass that lead back to marketing and allow marketing to continue to engage with them and nurture them until such time as either the actual prospect re-engages or sales is able to focus on it once more. So those are the two types of recycled lead nurturing. The third and final type of nurturing is called reconstituted, and this is where an actual lead has actually made it to SQL, as you can see there, but it has been closed not won post SQL. Now again, a number of reasons that this can happen. Perhaps it was an active sales cycle and things were going well, but then the budget was lost, or perhaps management changed, or the priorities within the business changed. Again, very strong lead, but just didn't come to fruition at this point in time. So typically what we see is sales actually closing that off, and it's sort of lying in a heap, if you like, of forgotten leads. Now what reconstituted lead nurture aims to do is it aims to have marketing focus on a set of those leads that have been closed not won, try and find some common themes in there, and then re-engage those prospects to see if they are ready to re-enter an active sales discussion. So those are the four types of nurturing. There is, some different characteristics that each one of them have. So for example, in terms of marketing being able to create and run a nurture program predominantly on their own, then you're typically looking at the pre-marketing qualified lead nurture and the reconstituted nurture. By and large, these are leads that either have not been sent to sales yet or have been disqualified by sales, and therefore marketing can, is at liberty to go and try and tap into those to find and rekindle interest. And anything they find, sales will be happy to take that back because they know that it was a strong lead at one point in time. If we look at the two center in the light blue, the recycled types of lead nurture, they're a little different. They require very close collaboration between marketing and sales in order to really understand why sales would be actively disqualifying something at that sales accepted process, or to really clearly agree between marketing and sales when would be an okay time for marketing to pull a lead back and start to nurture it once again. Another distinguishing characteristic between these types of nurtures is the length of time that you can expect these nurtures to take. So from a marketing pre-qualified lead nurture, that's probably one of your longest lead nurtures. And for that, I mean because you're not entirely sure how long it's going to be taking you to actually get some of the additional information. From a passive recycle, for example, that's probably going to be one of your shorter nurtures. There, if you've lost contact with the lead, really you want a short, sharp type of activity to drive that re-engagement. And once you've established that re-engagement, you can confirm that the individual is still engaged in a sales cycle and pass them back to sales. So that's probably your shortest one. All right, let's move on to 4 pillars of lead nurturing. And so, I mean, as we talk about those lead nurtures, it's great to say, I want to nurture at these various stages of the funnel. But really, it's important for us to have a framework, a process by which we are going to define each one of those nurtures. Because quite often when we speak with customers, they're so excited about creating their very interesting and intricate nurture plans that they actually forget that the most important objective of any nurture program is to transfer people into and successfully out of nurture. You don't want them to stay there forever, as great as your nurture may be. So we've defined 4 pillars of lead nurturing to really help our customers think through their nurture programs. And it starts with entry. Entry is everything about the triggers and the pathways that are going to signal to you that it's time to send a prospect into one of those 4 specific nurture flows. So for example, at the Pre-MQL nurture, the trigger there is typically that the AQL score has not been met, and so more interaction or information is needed. In that passive recycle that we spoke about, there the trigger could be the timer signaling that that lead has laid inactive within the sales funnel for more than half the average sales cycle. The second pillar is treatment, and this is everything about understanding how you want to interact with that prospect while they're in your nurture stream. And so it is a combination of the content that you want to share with them, the way that you want to deliver that to them, and then the offers and messages that you are going to be using to drive that incremental conversation with you. Remember, your objective here is to engage and to continue to move forward with that discussion so that you can hand this lead back to sales and re-enter that active sales cycle. The third pillar is transition, and this is very, very important because these are the signals, the red flags that you're going to look for that tell you it is time to move this prospect back to sales. So this is absolutely what you're aiming for. So you need to know up front what type of activity or what type of metric are you going to be looking at, and how is that automatically going to trigger that handover back to sales. In the disposition case, the 4th pillar, this is all about who you will be sending that lead to. It would be a crime, if you like, if we had spent all this time and energy nurturing a particular lead and really getting them ready to re-engage with sales, and then we send them back to sales only for them to fall on the floor. So this disposition, this 4th pillar, is important as the other 3. So it's important to define ahead of time who will you be sending that lead back to, and what information will you be providing along with that lead. Perhaps it's also what content in terms of sales enablement tools will you be providing to sales along with that lead, so that they are able to continue the conversation that you have started through nurturing rather than just starting from scratch. So those are the 4 pillars of lead nurture. Now let's pick 2 examples. We're going to talk about the first and the last examples, the Pre-MQL and the Reconstituted, simply in the interest of time, as we don't have time to go through all 4. But hopefully with these 2 examples, you will actually see how you can apply these 4 pillars in your business. So again, as a reminder, Pre-MQL, nurturing before that prospect has been handed off to teleprospecting or to the channel. And as we look at these 4 pillars, let's start with entry. So in a Pre-MQL nurture process, really here one of the most important things is the target market agreement and the company entry point. So who are you going to be targeting? Do you understand where they're going to be coming from? And do you have a complete or clean list of the either owned or purchased of that data, so that you can, as Lasse said at the beginning, so that you can effectively nurture them. And then also from an inbound marketing strategy, again, do you understand the multiple different inbound routes that they can be taking, and which one of those you are going to be using as a trigger to enter into nurture? Second, with treatment, here you're going to need a needs-based campaign structure. So you're going to need to have thought through the target markets that you have that you want to be nurturing and understand what their primary needs are, and then create a treatment program that is really based on pinpointing their need, speaking to that need, and then continuing to educate them about how your offering can resolve that need. You would like it to be a decision-based demand program, inviting them to interact with you and really help themselves assess and identify that you are indeed the solution that can solve their problems. And you want to think through that content and really map it to that early stage pre-MQL to make sure you're not offering some content that perhaps is more appropriate to later in the stage. Last but not least, information collection. Remember that as you go through the treatment for pre-MQL, not only do you want to be informing that prospect and hopefully having them progress with you through the buyer's cycle, but you actually want to be collecting some more information from them, again, to help you increase that AQL score. Third, transition. Here, the typical way that we see people identify when it's time to move the prospect across is through a lead scoring schematic. And so really understanding from your lead definition what's the pieces of information that marketing has agreed with sales are required, and what's the level of activity that signifies a hot lead. And when those have actually taken place, the score will reach the AQL score, and then it's ready to be handed over. And fourth, from a disposition perspective, where do we typically see these disposed? Well, these tend to go to either tele or straight to sales, depending on some of the route around rules. For example, if it is a strategic account and the company is focused on account-based marketing, then perhaps that lead would go straight to sales. If it is more of a SMB type of play, then perhaps there it would go straight to tele, and tele would be adding some additional information onto it before then setting it to telequalified and handing it across to sales. So that's your pre-MQL nurture process. Typically, we see this as an email campaign, as Lasse was saying, very automated. It tends to have between 3 and 4 different emails, but it also has an alternative. So if somebody does not respond to the first or second email, then it backs out into another stream, perhaps, that is a more high-level, broad type of nurture to see if perhaps a different topic or a different method of communication would elicit a better response from the prospect. If we go on to that second example that we were going to discuss, Reconstituted. So again, as a reminder, here the Reconstituted nurturing program is where we have a once engaged opportunity, and really it has been closed not won, and it hasn't been touched for months or even quarters. And so marketing can feel safe in going to try and resurface those and rekindle an interest with that prospect. So again, let's see how those 4 pillars actually apply. Starting with the entry pillar, how do you identify leads that are ready to be sent to a reconstituted nurture? Well, here, typically, we suggest that people look at aging opportunities. And so if a reconstituted, if a lead has been, sitting forgotten, if you like, for a period of typically more than a month, potentially less than 3 months, then really you can rest assured that they're probably still thinking about this particular solution or this particular business issue. Something less than a month might be a little too soon, especially if it was closed, not won, because they decided to select a competitor. But something between 1 month and 3 months is usually a good window, even if they've selected a competitor to run with. By about 1 month, they might be having second thoughts. They might have found some characteristics of that competitor that aren't a perfect fit. So that's the window we tend to recommend. From a treatment perspective, what do you want to do there? Here, you really want to have this multi-touch idea that is going to quickly rekindle their interest. And so perhaps one could be a specific offer that says, it was great to speak with you some months ago. If you are still interested or still in the market, then here is a great new offer that we have for you. And it could be an event, it could be a white paper, or it could even be some type of promotional offer. That could be followed up by, again, either an event or even a face-to-face meeting, something that is very quick and rapid fire that is going to hopefully re-engage and rekindle them. From a transition perspective, again, what is the thing that is going to tell us it is time to move them across? And here we do tend to see the lead scoring schematic used once again. But typically, they have been reset in some way. So the original lead score will have been either degraded over time because this has been sitting dormant, or it will simply have been taken back to a lower number or to 0. Such that when it builds back up to the lead scoring, then we understand that that's the time that it's ready to transition back into that active sales cycle. And then from a disposition perspective, in terms of when is it ready to hand over or who is it ready to hand over to, these leads typically get handed straight back to sales. There can be, in some instances, a qualifier pass from tele to field, but more often, because these have been engaged with a salesperson already, we see them handed back to the same salesperson that originally handled that lead, so that a bond that was established at the beginning can be continued. Okay, so that's of a high level of the 4 different types of nurtures, as well as the 4 pillars that we think are really quite fundamental to helping you think through logically each of those nurture programs. Certainly, I'm sure Lasse will concur that as you start to program things in your marketing automation platform, they can get very complex, and so something like the 4 pillars really helps you think through that complexity before you start programming. In terms of actions that I would suggest to you, there's a couple. One is, from a marketing perspective, I would suggest that you really understand those fundamental categories of lead nurturing and which one would apply most to you in your business. And second, I would suggest that you really work to align your nurture efforts with teleprospecting and sales so that they understand the value and the benefit that they're getting from you investing in nurturing. And then from a sales perspective, I would encourage you to have a conversation with sales so that they buy into the idea of having reps and partners be able to identify leads that are perhaps stalled or perhaps being disqualified, and rather than just leave them in a heap on the floor, actually be able to pinpoint and flag the ones that they would like to send back to marketing for future nurture. Thank you very much. Lasse, back over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Isabel. I appreciate you taking your time. Glad we got your audio working. Makes it a lot more interesting and fun to to view your presentation here. So let me just grab back presenter rights for me. And this should be, you should be able to see my screen. Oh, here we go, like that. Okay, so as mentioned, thank you very much, Isabel. As always, love your theory and love the direction of the insights that you guys bring to our webinars here. So what we want to do is try to take this from slides and theory into real life work in the Nordics. And the main reason for that is that we often experience customers that kind of get the idea and what this is all about, both from a sales and marketing alignment perspective, scoring, and also in regards to nurturing. But how do I really get started with this? It makes sense, it brings value to my business, but how do I get started with this? So I'll spend the next 5 minutes on trying to give you guys a direction into how could you really enable this. And I think one of the key elements here is if you think about the funnel that you guys need to go through to be able to really implement effective nurturing processes. And you can also hear that from a lot of the stuff that Isabel was talking about. It's really also a lot about data. So we need to understand where are our customers in the different phases of their buyer's journey. or this is what we call building digital profiles. And to give you an example of what digital profiles really is all about, then with the automation technology of Oracle's Marketing Cloud, we actually get out of the box ability to track the online behavior of individuals. I'm not going to cover too much of this, but just to give you an example of what we can actually see inside the platform from a digital behavior perspective. So we will be able to understand every single website visit that each individual actually had, linking that into specific profiles. So all of you that are on this webinar, sorry to tell you that from now on we are actually tracking your behavior across all of the medias that we are owning. So in this case, I've taken out my own digital profile, and you can see that I've visited our website 799 times, submitted 28 forms, etc. And it also gives me insights into each of the different URLs, if I want to see the visits or the emails that I've received, and also integrating the social elements. Now, naturally, to be able to drive this sort of lead nurturing, we need the digital behavior, but we also need the data from CRM platforms. We integrate with all of the standard CRM platforms of MS CRM and Oracle CRM on Demand and all of these different platforms, Salesforce, etc. So with data available to us, we can now start to target and segment our customers. And if you remember from Isabel's slides in the beginning, she talked about the entry phase of nurture flows. Well, that's really about targeting and segmentation. We need to have data. We need to have technology that can look at the data, combination of digital behavior and the actual data from the CRM platform. For instance, if you take the obsolete or dormant opportunities, well, we need that data to be pulled in from CRM systems and use the target and segmentation engine. And the target and segmentation engine of Eloqua and the Oracle Marketing Cloud really gives you a powerful tool to segment with over 50 different digital body languages. So if you have visited this part of our website X number of times within the last X period, and also have a title of whatever, then we want to create a segment that's called potential customers, and it will tell us that there are X number of customers in this. So we really have a powerful tool to identify and understand which of these customers are actually in the market now, which should be in and out of different nurturing flows. So with the digital profiles in place, ability to target and segment, now we can really start to build our nurturing flows out. But to really identify the different processes in a segmentation, in a communication process, right inside the platform, you're able to, in a drag and drop GUI, kind of like working with Visio, if any of you have worked with that before, by dragging and dropping and mapping out the customer's journey with different links between different touch points and segmenting on different parts of the data. So the way we end up with this is really to start to map out the customer lifecycle. And we conduct a lot of workshops with our customers, starting out with different phases. So it could be in the create awareness phase, or the harvesting data phase, or the introduction phase, or whatever phase it might be in your customer life cycle. And then nice and easy, taking it from a high-level perspective of different phases, bringing that into a specific description. So for instance, if we take the harvesting of data phase, well, the description of this phase is we want to understand who your potential buyers is, so relevant communication can be sent. The goal of this phase is harvest to data to set a specific profile. Maybe you're in category A, B, C customer, whatever it might be. How do we identify you and put you into the harvesting of data? Well, 24 hours after created date, we want to put you into this specific page. And there will be a set of different communications that needs to be triggered. It could be data harvest communication, the standard, just an email in my inbox or in my database. I want to be able to communicate relevant information to you. So we map out the customer's journey, bring that into marketing tactics, and below this and at the bottom of this spreadsheet, we also map out what data is needed to actually trigger those things. So that's brought into a high-level funnel. So different phases, different key marketing tactics, and each of these different tactics, like the awareness phase, is put into a communication flow. And this is actually what is being implemented inside Eloqua as a communication process. So it hopes it gives you an indication of how do we bring these PowerPoints into revenue and actual results. So mapping out the customer journey gives us an insight into what is it that we want to say at different stages and what data is actually needed. And the communication process that is actually needed is what we use as a blueprint for actually implementing it in the technology. This doesn't have to be a 400,000 euro project. It is fairly simple. Most of what is needed inside the platform is drag and drop. So you don't need hard-coded elements. You need data, and you need a tool that marketing can work with, and that's actually what Eloqua and the platform is all about. So it's about building digital profiles. Have technology so we can target and segment where in the funnel people are actually placed, and then the ability to really automate and personalize the communication based on the customer lifecycle, bringing that into data and actually executing that from a communication perspective. Now we have a lot of other functionalities in the technology that we use as a platform for really setting up strong nurture flows and effective nurture flows. Qualifying leads, we spoke actually about that on our last webinar. So with all of this communication going on, how can we really identify the customers based on scoring requirements, that these are the ones that should actually be sent back to sent to sales, like Isabel also spoke about before. So we have qualification functionalities, lead scoring functionalities right out of the platform. Now we're not going to spend too much time more on these different elements, but I hope it gives you a sense of there's a way from PowerPoint presentations and into actual revenue and results by following a pretty short process. And usually we see this as starting out by conducting what we call a business opportunity workshop, because we tend to see a lot of customers thinking about customer experience and customer life cycles, and it ends up becoming a massive project that will launch 18 months from now, and nobody in today's business can wait 18 months by getting until we get the ROI on our investments. So what we do is that we set the full vision for an omni-channel. This is how we would like to drive our communication in 24 months from now or 12 months from now, whenever that might be. But it's really about getting the basics right. What we do is that we conduct a business opportunity workshop where we look at the different nurtures that could be relevant for you to execute in your business model and evaluate those from a business value perspective. E, D, C, A and B, A as being the most valuable. And at the same time, monitor those or evaluate those based on also a little bit of Danish here, sorry about that, guys, but a use of resources. So how complex is this actually to implement? Now, naturally, if we have a very strong opportunity, which would be an A1, for instance, so it doesn't take much time to implement, but it is really high value. It could be the standard data harvest. It could be the standard welcome introduction flow. It could be a lot of different communication purposes, communication angles. Well, those are the ones we start out by executing. So by using this business opportunity workshop, you also get the input into building your business case, because each of these business opportunities will have a value associated to it. So we can now show that, okay, we will invest in the ones that are all A, or the ones that are all A, B, C, 1 and 2. Those are the ones we will kick off in the first phase of this project, and at the same time building the business case based on those. And then from there on, we involve into some of the more complex elements that might have high value, but takes a lot more resources to get going. And as you can probably imagine, and funny enough, that is exactly what the core of our business is. Really taking the marketing strategy, the customer strategies that you guys have, bring that from PowerPoint perspectives into data, into technology, and making sure that we deliver revenue and results as we go along, and not just by PowerPoint presentations. So with that said, that's actually concluding our presentation from today. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Isabel, once again for joining our webinar. Always a pleasure to have you guys on these calls. And we have our next webinar where we will actually dive into the details of mapping out our customers' buyer's journey. So the very, very short element of the presentation that I gave you guys earlier, bringing phases into marketing tactics, bringing it into data, and bringing that down to actual execution. I'm going to show you a process of how to realize buyer's journey and the value of working with that, but from a level where it isn't, strategic, high-level stuff that creative agencies earns a lot of money on, but really bring this into reality. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar. If there is any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out. Both myself and Isabel is still on the call, and we'll be happy to take any questions. And if not, I hope we have supplied you with a little bit of information, and an apology for our short audio issue earlier on. You were almost as lucky as you could hear me sing, which would not have been fun at all. But with that said, I just want to wish you guys a great day, and fire away if you have any questions, or else just thank you for today. All right, it doesn't seem like we have any questions today. Must have been because the information we supplied was spot on, right? So with that said, guys, have a fantastic day. Hope you all joining us on the 15th of December for a Christmas intro to the buyer's journey. And I'll speak to you all on the 15th. Feel free to reach out to us if you would be interested in more details of what we've covered today. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.